Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Para OR Normal Guyz. Sportcat here. I am at a remote location, and so things appear a little bit different. That's because they are. Let's see. First and foremost, I want to thank the Parapost Network for allowing us on their network, and we are also live on Yergs Radio, so you can go to yergsradio.com and hear us there, and you can also call us. Thanks to Yergs Radio at 1-888-88-YERGZ. Let's see who we got hiding backstage here. Hey, how are you?
Fabulous.
Yeah, well, you know how my day's been. We won't go into that. The chat's open, the phone line's open, and the guest, Valerie, is here. Hello, Valerie.
Hello. Thanks for having me today.
Hey, we're glad you're here. Crazy hectic day, so just
I feel that vibe today. I was like, I need a nap. I managed to squeeze in a short nap, and before, because I had this podcast and then I had a podcast before this, but I've also had 2 doctor's appointments with kids and juggling family stuff. So I was like, today I'm going to sleep great tonight.
Me, I'm like,
in my future.
I'll sneak a little nap in, and then I woke up and I was like, I shouldn't have done that. I woke up with an even worse headache.
Oh, that's the worst. Oh, but thanks for having me. I'm excited. I love talking about all the spooky, creepy.
I know.
Me too.
Urban legends.
You've got so many topics for us to choose from. We were talking backstage, and you got werewolves, Bigfoots. I don't know the Dracula in there, but I'm sure there's a vampire hidden somewhere.
Do you have Mothman anywhere?
Mothman is one I still have to go visit, though. I'm buddies with Mark Muncy, and he was a speaker at Mothman Festival one year, and so I get dragged into stuff all the time. It is amazing.
If my love wasn't abundantly clear.
Have you read "I'm in Love with Mothman" by Paige Lavoie yet?
No, but I have heard about it.
It's a sweet romance with Mothman.
I was gonna say there's Mothman, my beloved down here.
Yes, amazing. I write saucy stuff with cryptids, and Mothman is on the most requested list under the pseudonym of or pen name of Honey Cummings. A lot of people discover my crazy sleeping with Sasquatch or cuddling with Chupacabra and crack up all the time. And of course, now I've been putting these novellas in sort of like complete sets. So they're like erotic collections and good heavy reads for everyone. But it's been intrigued. A lot of... Okay, so fun story. I ended up on a panel with Mark Muncy, who's known for his eerie travels in Erie, Florida, and Talking Head on Discovery Channel. And then it's me, who's the smut writer sleeping with Sasquatch, right? And then Stacy Brown, who's like one of Florida's biggest Bigfoot experts. Luckily, Stacy wasn't there because I was already feeling outclassed. And then Mark's like, you know a lot about Bigfoot. What do you know? And I'm like, well...
He's a very gentle lover.
He sings like Dirk Bentley. Look, he sings like Dirk Bentley.
Dirk Bentley.
Yes. And he has shifting problems, but he'll also cook a girl bacon and eggs when her boyfriend does not deliver next door and woo you and go from there.
With his songs.
With his songs and his bacon and his campsite. Next
I think I'm going to have to add that book to my collection.
They're meant to be funny. I always do like a jilted lover, like this idea. So like spoiler alert. So plug your ears if you don't want to hear the big crescendo for the epilogue. It always shows like the boyfriend or the fiance. So basically, Frankie goes with her boyfriend out camping for the weekend, and he's led her to believe this is going to be a saucy, sexy weekend with him. And they get there, and she realizes, he says no fires because that might alert Bigfoot. And she's like, whoa. And he starts like spraying, dough and heat and scent covers. And she's like, oh, disgusting. And she's like, well, I'm hungry. And he's like, here's some MREs. I better go set up the trail cams, and disappears. And she's like, I'm in bikini and Daisy Dukes. Like, this is not what I had planned.
Eating my MRE tube of peanut butter.
right. So towards the end, because she hooks up with Biff the Bigfoot, she's like, screw my boyfriend. He's terrible. He's too busy into Bigfoot hunting. Goes to the camp next door, which happens to be Bigfoot's camp because he's having shifting problems. So he's got to get off so many times to kind of get himself straight again. So when it flips the epilogue, and I like to do this in all the little novellas, it shows her boyfriend's point of view, and come to find out Bigfoot missed one of the trail cams, and he has a front view of the two of them hooking up in the woods. And he's like, I can't show this proof of Bigfoot because it's him.
It's a sex tape.
It's a sex tape with his girlfriend. So stuff like that, right?
I love that so much. That is the best.
Fans of my show that have been with me for a long time know mine is the Bigfoot. That's what I like to go out in the woods looking for. And I said I'll probably be the one that finds the gay Sasquatch. So and I won't be able to tell anyone.
Sassy Squatch.
Sassy Squatch. There's there's an Instagram Bay Bigfoot, and she's always dancing and doing the sassy walk. I love her. I follow that one all the time.
Oh gosh, that is fantastic. Where can we find those?
Oh, you can find them anywhere. Amazon, on willisauthor.com, my website, my TikTok shop has it. Your best bet is to pick up, I think we're now down to just the set. So the Erotic Cryptid Collection by Honey Cummings, a name bestowed to me by my friends in the coffee shop. That was a fun discussion, proper discussion among friends. But they've been a lot of fun. I didn't realize how much people were craving something that was both humorous and steamy, doesn't take itself seriously. I know I get a lot of compliments. I think everyone's favorite so far is the Chupacabra, because he's like the sheriff and his old fling comes back after a bad divorce. So it's like this whole like chemistry thing.
Rekindling
and she's like hitting on him, and he's like trying to put out this fire she started in the front yard with all her ex's stuff, and he turns around and hits her with the hose, and he's like, do I have to put out 2 fires? Like, I did not come here to hook up with you. I'm the sheriff. I am working. So there's a lot of humor like that too.
That's
Honeysuckle in the chat says, I think that name is hot.
Well, thank you.
Please thumbs up, like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So what got you into doing this?
I was about to say, how?
Okay, first off, I've always loved writing as a kid. So classic author personality, right? I wrote stories in elementary school. Like, I was filling in 5th grade, I was buying composition books and filling them with handwritten stories from front to back. And of course, in high school, I doubled down on this one particular story. And I just went to my 20-year high school reunion, and I didn't realize how impactful my writing was until that moment, because everyone found me and was like, because I had multiple binders with copies of the story that was going around my school. Some of them still have those binders with the story in it. And they were like, I was so excited because you finished telling the story. Now, fast forward, I start getting brave enough to start doing panels, start going to MegaCon. I get invited with Wordier Than Thou out of Tampa it was the last MegaCon they did in Tampa. And I meet Erica Lance, who's an erotica writer who writes My Home on my home on Whore Island, right? And she says, Val, you need to get a side piece. I'm like, I'm married, Erica. She goes, no, you should write erotica. She says, this scene in one of your books is spicy. I said, but I don't use any of the words. So like if you read the Cedric series, I cut out all the naughty words just about, even though it gets saucy and there's vampires and incubus and succubus involved, I kind of keep that heat level between like a 3 and 4, and I keep the language down. There's no, naughty words or erotic words involved, but
you got to use your imagination on that.
It's not too bad, because when you write a line along the lines of he then looked up between my thighs with glowing green eyes, you're kind of, there's no question what's happening there.
Yes, please.
Right? So it's possible. And she's like, no, you should try writing erotica. And of course, she wanted to launch a publishing company for Horseman Publications. So I said, okay, I'll give it a try. I'll help you launch your business, because I'm a typesetter and book designer. So I send her Sleeping with Sasquatch. It's in the raw. It's my first attempt. I don't know what to feel about it. I giggled and my face is red. I knocked my monitor off at one time because my husband walked in. I'm so nervous about
Don't
this.
read it.
So I send it to her because that's my first attempt of erotica writing. And I wait 2 weeks and I said, is it bad? Is it good? Where do I need to go back through? And she goes, oh, I gave it to the editor. I said, what editor? I said, what editor? What editor did you give this to? And she goes, oh, my friend who's got a doctorate in English literature. And I'm like, this is not the book I imagined sending to a doctorate. I had so many other stories. I would have rather sent a doctorate in English literature than my smut book of bending a girl over a log with Sasquatch behind her, or rocking the Bronco in the middle of the woods. Like, this was not the story for that. She says, well, let me introduce you to her on Facebook. I messaged her and I said, look, it was not intended to be edited in its current state. I apologize. I had no idea when I gave it to Erica. I just needed reassurance. She goes, no, this dialogue is the best dialogue I've ever read. I've been reading it out loud to my husband.
No.
And I'm like, no.
My marriage appreciates it. You gave him some tips.
Yeah. So it's no, my husband started carrying some of the books with him when he went to the bar and playing darts and selling copies of the book. He's like, I made $20 tonight. I'm like, with darts? And he goes, no, with your books. I'm like, honey.
Yeah.
He's like, I think they think I'm a sex god.
Make sure you tell him it's your wife, not you.
I'm like, you should read it first before you start bragging. I know in one of the ghost ones, they're trying to get things going in the tub, and she's slowly coming back to life. Her bad knee kicks in, it pops, and she yells, and he's thinking she's really into it, and she goes, no, get off, and he goes, I'm trying, and she's like, no, physically, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, this is done.
Oh, that's great.
So it's been a lot of fun because I get to do ridiculous humor throughout these books, and I try to do my best to go back and forth between the jilted lover and the shifter, so you get both their POVs, a male and a female, at all times. So, but that is how I ended up doing Honey Cummings, though. Everyone's like, you should write erotica, Val, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And it's a shame because she's more famous than I am, and I get jealous sometimes. I went to Indiana Comic-Con, and I was already nervous because I felt like the token female romance writer in this group that was there. And I was between some big guys. I have John Jackson Miller, who writes Kenobi and Star Wars stuff, behind me. I've got Keith DeCandido, who writes for Star Trek and Alien and Supernatural franchises like that. I've got Rick Hines, who's made it big through the Nerd Magazine and Inkshare's whole thing is where he got his start from. So I feel like and then 2 tour authors, you know, and then there's me, and they're like, who's your publisher? And I'm like, it's me. It's me. Right. So I didn't have panels, so the boys invited me to join them for the panel that Friday morning. We walk in, we're setting up. A big group of women, about 6 women, walk in, and they sit down, they look up, they make eye contact with me, and they point at me. And of course, I'm there as author Valerie Willis, and they go, "Honey Cummings," and I'm like, "Shh, I'm not here as her. I'm not doing that. This is a family-friendly event. I cannot do that here." And then everyone's like, "Who are you?"
It reminds me of that scene in The Winter Soldier when the kid sees him and he's just like,
right. But they had seen me at Dragon Con. I've been fortunate enough to, I think, 2 or 3 times been on their Things That Go Bump at Night panel that happens at night, and they invite a bunch of erotica writers and things. So it's made the mistake saying dinosaur porno and erotica is refreshing. And she's like, I think Tamsin laughed for like a good 15 minutes before she could catch her breath.
Oh, I love everything about this. This is the best.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's the other side of cryptids we don't normally see. So, and
right.
So yes, heck yes.
And everyone, of course, you know, and of course, Mark giggles about it. He's like, "You don't understand. Val researches. Like, she knows the lore and the history of the cryptids that she's saucing up." So a great example of this is that 2 or 3 years into it, the publisher got an email from a news guy out of New Jersey that's writing an article about literature written inspired by the New Jersey Devil. And of course, they write back and they're like, "Sir, do you not realize that Naked with the Jersey Devil is an erotica novel? And are you sure you want to get a sample of this for your news article about the legend?" And I guess he emailed them back, and it was so funny because Erica's the one running the business. She's like, Erica's like, "Val, I got a response back." And I said, "Oh," she says, "First off, I think he thinks I'm you, but that's fine. That's not," she says, "but he's impressed because you had the most history and the most accurate aspects of the New Jersey Devil, besides the shifter aspect and humanizing him and romanticizing him aspects. But he wants to know how many men you interviewed to get it right in the book." Like, and she's like, "And sure, he wants to know how many people you've slept with." And it was like, "Well, I've had a really good guinea pig called my husband for a very long time." Like, but it's,
"Excuse me, sir, mind your business."
Yeah. So I'm like, "I'll let you answer that guy how you see fit." But he gave it big accolades in the article. But yeah, I put the research, like I mentioned, you know, the past and the history, and I like tying those things in, even though they're meant to be humorous, entertaining little fast reads all the time. So they're a good time.
It's good. And Val or Honey, this is my other co-host Dina. I told you I was at a remote location.
Hi, sorry.
The link to my co-host in the chat. So.
I was having
issues.
It's
been a day.
Yeah. So
awesome.
Well,
and hey, Matt, I see you in the chat. So it's
Tanner Rutledge said it's a great show. And Matt, he said that he had met you at MegaCon in Tampa, and that you all did a panel together. That's great. That's awesome. And please remember, guys, like, follow, share, and subscribe. If any of you guys want to get on the show, send me an email. We'll get you hooked up. And also remind everybody the toll-free number is up here, 1-888-88-YERGZ. That's 1-888-88-YERGZ on your phone pad. So which of the cryptids, Valerie, is your favorite to write about?
Oh, man. You know, I have to say secretly, because when I look at all the characters I've ever created across everything I've written, I think werewolves secretly is my favorite. That whole
That's good.
and different variants of werewolves, right? So like the chupacabra, the way I portray him is more like a werewolf than anything. And then even one of my favorite all-time characters I created in the Cedric series is Roma Santa. And he's got a lot of Nordic and Apollo. And then his name derives from a serial killer named Emmanuel Roma Santa, who really thought he was a werewolf. Like he was one of the first serial killers to stand trial. They brought him in. They could confirm that he ate roughly 30 people at that time. He had an accomplice who swears that he had been changed into a wolf by this man. And the judge is like, well, what do you plead? Do you plead guilty or not guilty? And Roma Santa is like, guilty. And he goes, well, why, sir? And he's like, because I had to eat. I'm a werewolf. So being able to tie in some of that dark history to inspire my own werewolf spin and lores was a lot of fun in the Cedric series. Like there's this Slavic, it's funny. There's this Slavic belief that if you die with unfinished business, that you would come back as a werewolf and anyone you harmed would become the undead and become vampire-like, right? Or a zombie-like thing. So I really doubled down because you don't see that kind of reversed appearance between werewolves and vampires very often. So it's sort of like the vampire is a derivative of the werewolf curse kind of vibe is what I went with. Playing with that was a lot of fun. And then I tied in things I knew about the serial killer to inspire what unfolds. So for example, Roma Santa's other famous name as a serial killer was the Tallow Man. So what he was doing, he was a merchant. He traveled around and he made tallow for soap out of his victims. Not one part of those people he was eating went to waste. He would wash and gather things, sell it in other villages. I mean, and it's intense. And I know when they sort of did research on his past to figure out how did he end up this way, it was because he came from a very Slavic Romanian superstitious family. He was either the 7th or 9th son born in a row. And of course, we see fantasy novels, the 7th son and the 9th son, which is part of that same superstitious belief that they're all inspired from. But she actually branded that baby with a hot iron to mark him cursed. So that's the mark of the curse. And for the first 5 years of his life, a doctor had recorded that she insisted on portraying him and treating him like he was a girl until the village and the doctor intervened. And then after that, she pretty much disowned him or isolated or estranged herself with him. And that sort of started the snowball. He got caught because he tried to sell a dress in a village that happened to have the mother who gifted it to the woman that he took it from. But the fact that he was selling soap made out of these people just gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Oh, that is creepy, isn't it?
But I used that.
He was ahead of his time.
Yeah. In a fantasy aspect, I use that aspect though. So there's a point in the second book of Cedric called Roma Santa, Father of Werewolves. And he's got to get past this giant dragon by the name of Varus, which is based off another medieval lore and superstition. But Varus has horrible eyesight and he decides everything by smell. So he gets the idea to make tallow out of the master of the dragon that he just killed not too long ago. And he basically makes people soap, scrubs and bathes in it. So he smells like this guy to get past the dragon. So that's sort of like the crazy weird
Slightly
twist.
ingenious.
Right? So like people are like, where do you come up with the idea? I'm like, fact is stranger than fiction.
Yeah.
I'm like, not everything's an original idea because I'm sort of incorporating a lot of what I've read. It inspires me And I'm like, how can I use this in a way? And then when people are like, oh, well, he keeps running into alchemists, but they all have the same name. What's up with that? And I said, well, there was the Hermetic Order who followed the rules of the Golden Bough and all that stuff. Like that was a real thing in that time frame. So it's always fun to reveal to my readers how much of the fantasy is actually based off of fact. And that's like and that's sort of an example of how I'm sort of stitching it back in weird ways, but it works, right? It kind of makes it a unique twist.
Yeah.
As a fellow writer, I'm interested in your opinion because on social media now, there are so many of these different little, like, the little sexy videos to preview the books, and then sometimes it's literally just videos, or it's like an audiobook. What is your opinion on and it could just be on what it shows me all the time. They're all always weird.
Are you getting thirst traps all the time?
Yes. Yeah. But like bad ones.
Oh.
Because I had come across one that I really liked, and I was listening to it, and it ended up being a werewolf one. But there are so many of these, like, the lichen prints, there are so many of these out there now. Have you pulled any of your inspiration from that?
I am a big fan of Patricia Briggs. Like, I love that she used Native American lore, which gave it its own special splash. It has different vibes, different moralities, different understandings. So I'm always looking at authors who like do like a fresh spin, or ones that I can clearly see the research and mythology. Like, I know where they took that from. Like I said, anytime you see a fantasy novel with the seventh son or ninth son, they're pulling off that old superstition and beliefs from those days and times. So I have sort of, that's what draws me towards certain werewolf stuff. It's interesting because there is like this book talk has just blown up, right? Like, we've seen this, but how is this any different than when Fabio and Harlequin and Avon books blew up before they were bought out, right? So it's just we've got a different crowd and generation taking the baton, and our preference is we grew up on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We want some more sexy bad boys who have inhuman things, but they're trying to humanize themselves, right? Our monsters are our real monsters, and things like that. And I think that's basically what we're seeing, that we're just seeing that shift. Like, they used to have some of the best commercials out of Harlequin, where like she's on the reading her book on the washing machine as it's going, the spin cycle, right? Yep. And then suddenly the book disappears and it's a hot, half-naked cowboy in front of her. Like, read Harlequin, and it ends there, right? So they're like implying of what to expect. So it's not that we've gotten any racier, I don't think. Those books were pretty racy. Great grandma was reading some pretty racy stuff. I've seen that collection. It was that and Reader's Digest in her time.
So was my mother.
What?
I said, Lord, so was my mother. She used to. We had a big flea market down home that had like this big. It was basically like a big used bookstore that you could either like you could bring your books and get store credit and like trade in and out. And I swear that place was 98% Harlequin, Fabio, sexy romance books.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I don't know if you've seen. So here's an interesting thing. This is where me as a book designer, someone who's on the publishing and creating books for indie authors and things like that, is I recently had to change my covers. I no longer have half-naked dudes on the Cedric series because there have been laws that have come out this year that say if I have a half-naked torso guy or a sexy racy picture on here, I have to cover my books in ID for 18 and plus before I can sell it to anyone. And that was because of the whole failure for them to pass the anti-LGBT book laws that came for it.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, no, I wish I was. So
That
a
in all
lot of
states?
it was not all states, it was some states, but it's enough to
Oh,
impact the industry that's why Haunting Adeline has a less saucy. Planet of the Ice Barbarians has shifted their cover yet again. So that's why you see now if you walk through a Barnes and Noble right now, it's like you can't tell the genres apart because they're all using this format because no one knows what format is going to match. Luckily, my stuff's like very fantasy and action packed Cedric series, so I have a lot of breathing room with these.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I'm up to book 5 and I'm getting ready to start book 6 of this series. But it is crazy how much authors need to be mindful of the trend changes, and sometimes those trends are decided by laws that are going in effect to impact other areas of our society. And it's crazy that we've gotten to this point. I mean, think of all those Fabio covers. Every single one of those Fabio covers would now have to be changed because they would not meet that law requirement. And it is a wild climate that we're in. Yet when you look at Book Talk, people are like all about it. So it's strange stuff. And then you also have this other movement for clean romance that's happening, where if they kiss in the book, they're like 1 star. This is a terrible book. And I'm like, how can you have a clean romance? Yes. And you're like, it was before wedlock. I was out of wedlock. And I'm like,
what?
Like going backwards.
Just a kiss?
Yes. And strangely enough, Indian romance, a kiss would be the climax of the romance and a proposal.
Yeah.
That's where it stops. It doesn't go any further than that. Maybe a couple cute dates. Right. So
it wasn't spicy enough. 1 star.
So it's interesting how different readerships and different cultures and regions prefer different types of romance. And I think it's part of the importance of making sure that blurb on the back of your book and the way you're labeling your content is right. Like one of my biggest frustrations was Sarah J. Maas's one series being labeled YA for the longest time, with Akatar being labeled as a YA at its start. And I'm like, this is not YA. This is adult fantasy romance, and it just got spicier with each book, and they finally flipped it out of there. But I'm like, you guys,
that was part of the problem, I think, with a lot of the stuff in schools was too racy for young. Well, not all of it. I think that wasn't all of the problem. It was, well, you know what it is, but we just won't go there.
There's so much going on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I also love that the readership and authors have adopted like the spice levels now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You see the chili peppers all the time on people. Like, this is a 3 chili pepper one. This is a 5 chili pepper one.
Yeah.
I always joke that erotica is the 6th level. And I always tell people, like, they're like, well, what's the difference between the heat levels? I'm like, let's pretend you're the camera crew, right? That you're filming this romance scene. They're talking at the table and the bedroom door's next to them, right?
How much are you looking away while you're filming?
Yeah. Heat level 1, they go, oh, I love you. I love you too.
Yeah.
Get up. They both walk through that door, but you don't move from the table.
Right.
And the next morning, everyone's just happy.
Yeah.
Little acting strange and nervous, but happy.
Yeah.
Right. Heat level 2, okay, they're kissing. They might be making more moves on each other, but they're not like erotic or raunchy moves, but it's a little spicier. You might be able to see through an open door before they turn off the lights, but you never quite see them get to the bed, right?
Yeah.
Now we're venturing in heat level 3. 3 chili peppers, they are taking off clothes. There's heavy petting. They might be talking dirty a little bit, but they're keeping the language choice a little milder than what you expect, right? Then you jump to heat level 4, and now we're walking into the bedroom and getting a little closer. There's a little bit more descriptive going into the act before the full Monty and then lights out, right? Heat level 5, we're going all the way. This is where your mafia romance is really into this borderline pushing the limitations, right? The camera crew's closer. We get to stay for the whole event. And then, we either skip to the next day or not. Heat level 6, erotica, whatever the planet off to the side, they're like, hey, I need you to lift the thigh to the left. It's almost like an instruction manual, right? Like we're going to zoom in and, where the hands are at all times. It's not left to the imagination of the reader. It's a little bit more descriptive. And it's interesting because you also see a common occurrence in erotica being in first person present tense because they're trying to put the reader more in the moment than any other
person's
genre.
body.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to see that breakdown. So that's something I get asked a lot and I always talk about a lot, but that would be an explanation. That is a tour of the spice levels, everyone.
Those are some good descriptives. I like that.
Yeah,
oh, sorry. Try and keep the voice from cracking.
Yeah.
Catching up with the comments here, says Honeysucker says your husband must be an absolute sex god and not some nerd painting minifigures in
Be both.
He could be both. Yes, he's both.
I can't believe it's not legal. Sorry, Fabio.
That's a wonderful one. The one thing about Fabio, the fact that I can never unforget about him is the time that he, I guess, was in Tampa visiting Busch Gardens and got hit in the face by like a duck or goose.
Yeah.
And they killed the bird, but it did like no damage to him. I'm like, that is a tough.
Yeah, that was awful.
Goodness gracious. I think he was supposedly on over 500 covers in total. Like when someone is just that was just an insane ordeal, but I mean it worked.
Yeah, it did.
It did, yeah.
And now he's been replaced with Sasquatch and the Chupacabra and Mothman and things like that.
Weird.
I think the interesting one
caress his antenna with a light bulb.
The one that I think is interesting is there's almost like a Wendigo spur happening with the paranormal romances, right? There's like Wendigo-esque kind of stuff. I don't know how I feel about that because, I mean, I guess it's the same as the vampire, right? You're with a creature that wants to eat you at the same time that you're in love with each other, but the Wendigo is an interesting choice because when you really dive into that lore, that Native American lore, that is someone who's eaten a human and is no longer human, right?
Yeah.
So, and that now they crave nonstop because that's the curse of crossing that line, so to speak. Yeah. So I think it's interesting to see how close everyone wants to get to the danger line, I guess, and see how much more convincing they can be. But then you have people writing like far goofier than what I can do. Like Chuck Tingle is a whole thing. And he writes Sasquatch, Bigfoot. He even wrote one where he it's him and his Nebula Award getting it on, and like whatever he can cook up that's crazy and just like a weird Trotsky thing, and it sells like hotcakes, and it's crazy how far spread the genre goes and how willing we're going. I know someone was I was watching an interview on our book review on a Bigfoot erotica book, because I'm always curious how are other people writing their Bigfoot erotica research. I guess it elongated and chased her through the woods, and I'm like, how does he not get it tangled in the trees? Like, how does, that's where my mind went, right? Like, like, I live in Florida, and I don't recommend that.
No, you might run into some thorns or something.
Trouser snake just took on a whole nother
level.
But It is. It's nuts to see how daring the writing is. And I think that's thanks to the fact that we have self-publishers. We have access to not have those limitations. And I think that also comes back to what you were saying, Jay, of why is it getting this weird awkwardness to it? And that's because people are pushing boundaries. But I think I've had this.
I think they feel more okay now. There's so much more out there. Because I dabbled in it many years ago myself, and I think now it's much more accepted than it would have been like 5 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one part of this is that we have readers who want to read spicy stuff but are a little scared if it's too contemporary, too realistic. It might feel like they're not being true to their partners.
Yeah.
So adding those urban legends, those cryptids, things that they're familiar and also interested in can help. Or going off the scales and people are like doing the Taken by the T-Rex and going all the way to Alice.
Really?
Yes, they're on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
You should see the cover. It's glorious.
That's kind of... whoa.
Isn't there something with like the comic book genre or the superheroes even?
Superhero has been interesting because they're now doing like a whole dark superhero. Like The Boys is a great example, right? It's very corrupt superhero stuff. I'm even seeing anime kind of go that route of, dark, corrupted superhero worlds or questionable morality in those superhero worlds. So I don't quite see a lot of romance in that genre. And I don't know if it's because I'm not a big superhero fan and maybe it's just not hitting my radar. But I don't know. But what I do see on the rise a lot, and mafia romance is part of this umbrella, is villain romance, where the girl is not winning the hero, she's choosing the villain. Right. And one of my favorite sayings and memes and things that this readership likes to tote is the hero will sacrifice you to save the world, but the villain will sacrifice the world to save you. And it's the whole like that
sexy bad boy
will always choose you at the end of save you at the end of the day, right?
She'll change him and make him good person.
There's also that trope. Yes, she can make him a better guy. I feel for people that I want to see more where she realizes she is a villain and that she's really into this. Like I think that would. But I don't know why you don't see as much as that. Like maybe people are afraid to go to the dark side. Yet then we see people all about the dark side when it comes to the Star Wars franchise, right? Or really into or obsessing over the darker cryptids like the Hat Man and the Shadow Man and things like that. So it's very interesting. I'm curious to see in the next 3 years how much more we see a lot of our cryptid and lores start folding into this romance genre more and more with each passing year. Because I think we're going to see like it uptick quite a bit and open up some pretty strange doors that when we thought we saw and heard it all. I think we're going to discover some pretty interesting authors and stories, and maybe discover new cryptids that no one knew about.
Yeah.
Well, I think it'll get to the point where people are like, well, screw it. Everybody else is putting their freaky stuff out there. I'm going to put mine.
I think I might do that.
Definitely.
And I'm like, now I got to come up with a good villain origin story for a girl.
Yeah. She doesn't have to start as the villain. She could just slowly become the villain.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to start off as Harley Quinn. Yeah. See? She can become Harley Quinn.
Right. She was a doctor and she had good intentions. And then she's like, his concepts aren't so bad.
Or a sex therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had one of them on the show, ironically.
She wanted just to be helpful.
Oh,
She went dark.
Valerie, I'll give you a suggestion if you haven't read them. It's obviously not on the side of erotica, but I have a feeling we have that same kind of taste in this. Have you seen the books I'm a Therapist?
No, not yet.
There are 3 of them.
Okay.
And one of them is I'm a Therapist and my patient is in love with a pedophile. I'm a Therapist and my patient is going to be the next school shooter, and
I've heard of those.
And my patient is a vegan terrorist. They're by Dr. Harper.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Because I was thinking of what you, like, everything that you were putting into yours. It's like there's the horror, there's the seriousness, but there's comedy and, you know, the romanticism in there of everything, and those take a weird turn kind of like that, but without the eroticism or anything, and I think you would get a kick out of them.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out because that's interesting angles. So a senior lit agent in the industry, Sarissa Hernandez, once said during one of her workshops, the best storyline is the one that starts with "what if," right?
Yeah.
And you should always.
I want to read those Disney ones that are like that.
Oh God, yeah. It's always, she says, a reader should always feel like they just got on the wrong train and they have no idea where they're going.
Oh yeah.
Like they're rushing to get on the train, the door closes, it starts moving, and they realize this is not the direction I should be moving in.
Like a Willy Wonka story.
That's how those books definitely are. Is very much just like the first one is my patient is the next school shooter, and that one starts off very just because they kind of break down the story into different cases in each of the books, and it very much is just like you have no idea where this stuff is coming from, and I'd love to meet the person whose head it came out of.
Yeah, who was it? Joe Rogan had a guy on, and he's like, dude, have you heard about Book Talk? And Joe Rogan's like, no, I don't know what this is. And he says, let me tell you about this book my wife's been reading. And he like describes that she stole this shark researcher's identity. They're on the boat banging. He says, and then he bites her lip until it starts bleeding, drags her out by her hair, starts like dunking her head, still banging her. And starts into a frenzy. And I'm like, oh, that's what they all have in common. They like the cryptids and monsters because monsters are meant to punish people for, even because I had this discussion about medieval bestiaries and all those lores and legends. It's all about punishing people for not following a certain moral code. But we're still doing that. And we're just creating really awkward hookups that are both punishing for bondage.
I can see Joe Rogan going,
just be like,
what, man?
Yeah, it's a great clip. Like, I highly recommend finding that clip.
Who was the guest?
It was, I don't remember who the guest was, but it was on the Joe Rogan. I'm sure if you look it up, Joe Rogan discovers Book Talk or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's like, what is the name of this book? And he's like, this can't be real. And it's insane. Like, I know I write some ridiculous stuff at times, everyone cracks up because I wrote Beating Up with Bloody Mary is the most recent one from the Honey Cummings franchise, right? And they're like, this whole like mirror aspect is really strange. And I'm like, it's a thing, right?
It is, yeah.
It's a thing. And they're like, but yet you were able to bring in Changeling and Arthurian tale and Merlin history into this somehow. And I'm like, that's where I show up. That's that's where Val's first love comes in, is the weird nerdy research aspects of it. So, but it's cool that everyone notices those aspects. But it's crazy that there's like a level of, even though supposed to be like immoral stories, raunchy stories, but at the same point, there's like a punishment system in place.
Yeah.
Mafia ones take that angle. Usually the girl is kidnapped or being punished or something of the sort. So I'm like, you know, bad boy punishing the bad girl, you know, kind of aspect. And I'm like, I can't. My characters are too goofy for that. You know, like I have a scene, the New Jersey Devil one. He hooks up with the bartender in his casino, and she's like crawling across the bed trying to be saucy, but they've already been a couple of rounds, so her makeup is smudged across her face. And his thought to himself is like, Jesus, she looks like a rabid raccoon crawling across the street. Love it. Let's do it again. And he's like, no, I need to get to work. He's like, I'm done. So then, like, I can't, like, I enjoy the dark fantasy aspects. I have dark moments, like I described with Roma Santa, right? There's some dark moments, but I can't bring myself to bring that darkness to the bedroom for my characters, because that's where they're vulnerable. And I think that's important for any author and even reader when they're selecting stories, is know which you prefer, right?
Yeah.
You want the bedroom to be a sacred place where vulnerability is safe there or not safe. Like mafia romance, it's not going to be safe in the bedroom. It gets more dangerous in the bedroom. Whereas some of these other ones, it's the other way around. The only safe place is those moments they steal away.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting that we see that divide a lot with where the monsters come into play.
Right.
Very much.
And speaking of monsters, before we let you get out of here, we always ask our guests, have you ever had any paranormal experiences, seen a ghost, bumped into Bigfoot in the woods, or
so
everyone
always sees ghosts at night, and this is a ghost that shows during the day more often. I grew up 6th generation on the same road in Winter Garden, and everyone's related, and all the houses on the one side are cookie cutter floor mats. And there was stories about the house next door that my aunt and uncle were living in, had just moved into, to be honest, about an old man had a heart attack in there and a baby died in the downstairs converted carport area, right? While babysitting their kids one night, I heard the baby cry, and that's the most unnerving thing I've ever, experienced. But what really got me is that I had kept seeing like an old man walk around the corner of the house for a while now, before they moved in and even after they moved in. I'm out there talking to my uncle. We're in his backyard, a ways back, and I was looking for my cat. And I was making sure, because he had hunting dogs. I'm like, Pikachu is slow and stupid. I get it if he jumped in and the dogs ate him alive, that the cat's fault. And he's like, no, nothing like that. And then I keep glancing over his shoulder. At the corner of his house is the old man that I keep seeing, just standing there staring at us and watching us. And I'm like, I can't be seeing that. I keep shaking my head, looking back at him, but my eyes keep, because your body, there's something about it. Every muscle tenses. And finally he turns around and he goes, hey, sir, can I help you? And the old man goes like this and starts walking away. He gives chase. His back door opens, but the man's gone.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, did we just see a ghost? And I'm like, oh my God, you saw him. It's like one of those.
I'm not crazy.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Schizophrenia runs in the family. So I'm thinking, oh, it's happening to me.
Oh my gosh.
I was 13 at the time, right? I'm like, I don't know any better. But it was like one of those surreal moments. And I think that's a very important moment for anyone who's ever had a paranormal occurrence, when you have someone else with you. And you both can't explain who, what, when, or where. And of course, yes, we've been on tours to the Old City Jail and St. Augustine. They have an after dark tour. If you want to feel like a paranormal investigator for like 2 or 3 hours, I highly recommend it. And crazy the vibes you get there. But of course, the joke is my husband, like, we will get activity in this room. It's a group of 6 of us. My husband walks in and all the things die.
Is that?
And he's like, I want to experience something, but I'm not.
They just can't handle how much of a sex god he is.
That's what it is.
That's it. That's exactly what it is.
He's like, oh, he's here.
Run.
But that would be my that one pivoting moment for me, where it took me from not sure to holy crap, they exist kind of feel for me. And it was because he turned around, and when he talked to that old man, I just
like,
oh shit. Like, what should I tell him?
Yeah. See him all the time over here.
That's great. Well, did you see him after that?
So they ended up moving out because he started asking questions, and I explained to him, I always see him outside. I've never seen him in the house, but I know other people who've lived in this house have stories of him in the house. Oh. He said one night he woke up to him standing over him in bed and told him to get out, and walked out of the bedroom.
Oh, crap.
And they moved out after that.
Oh, yeah.
Not today, Satan.
That house has been torn down since then. So... but it was an interesting, something was going, like, it's weird. It's like he tolerated them for 2 or 3 years, and then they did something that made him unhappy, and he was going to let them know.
Well.
Were they doing
tired of him being there, probably?
I don't know, to be honest, because by then I had moved out of the house and stuff like that, and I was doing other stuff. I was in those last years of high school. I had better things to do.
Yeah.
You said you would babysit their kids.
Yeah, I would babysit their kids on occasion, and after the baby downstairs, we all watch them at my house, and of course
it was the kids on his lawn. That's what it was.
Yeah, and of course, shortly after that happened, we started experiencing stuff in our house. And again, daytime. The whole family's watching a movie. It's like a Saturday afternoon. And it's one of those slightly raised 1950s wooden houses, right? And we hear someone walking up the 3 or 4 steps to knock on the front door. We see the shadow of silhouette of someone. They knock. The doorknob starts turning. My stepdad gets up, who thinks they're just going to walk into the house? No one is there. And he even said, when he first started dating my mom, and I started realizing the entities I was seeing may actually be ghosts, I came out and I was going to work, and he's sitting there, and I said, "Oh, are you going to sit here by yourself?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, just so you know, the house is haunted. He usually hangs out in my room, but sometimes he likes to mess with people," is what we're starting to notice, because it was like a younger, early 20s, dark-haired guy. And I leave. He says, not even 15 minutes after I left, my bedroom door opened and shut. The guy goes, "Hey, man," walks past him. And by the time he faced him to the back door just, again, that whole mysterious door just opening. And someone
he was just going out.
He's like, "I thought you were hiding a boyfriend in there and had done something questionable." And I'm like, that's probably what he wanted you to think, because he thought that was funny, but that's not. But it was just so strange, and with a group of people experiencing it, it was like, I can't. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I haven't really experienced things to that level, so I don't know if what was going on a lot at home, and the stressors and the chaos, because my parents' divorce and stuff was very messy and stuff, and other things were going on, so it was always wondering if it had a lot to do with those energies in kicking up the activity. So
yeah, it is. It's possible.
That's mostly poltergeist stuff, though. But
he could have just been a really nosy neighbor. He
could have been. He could have just been.
He was just stopping by to get the drama.
He could have been hanging around you to be a protector or something.
Yeah. That's what I thought a lot of times too. It was interesting. Stuff would fall off. off of things or fly across the room at random times.
Yeah.
People would see him or see silhouettes or doors would open, close, or lock.
Mhm.
It was really strange.
Me like, hey, now come on. We went through this last week. Pick it up.
Friends stopped coming over because they swear that their hair was getting pulled or tugged at times. Yeah. So it was a wild little experience. Like I said though, it was only that little small snippet of my life where I experienced a lot of that weird stuff with other people around, and mostly during the daytime. So when I hear people tell ghost stories, I'm like, but this stuff happens during the day.
Oh yeah,
just as much.
I mean, they're around all the time. I mean, it's just not at night, not always at night.
It's whenever they feel like it.
Yeah. We're more vulnerable at night. So.
Yeah.
Well, Valerie, you've been great. I'm glad that you got to come hang out with us, and I invite you to come back.
Absolutely, anytime.
Let's do this again because
that was fun.
And I'm gonna have to message you and see about getting a copy of that to add to my Sasquatch collection. So
absolutely would love to. I even got a chance to give a copy to the Jack Link's Sasquatch guy, so he has a copy of Sleeping with Sasquatch. I'm like, yes,
that's
awesome.
That's good.
Yeah, I definitely would add that to my collection. So, Valerie, thank you, Matt, and it was great. Let's do this again.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Before you go, tell everybody where they can find your stuff, and I want you to get in.
All right. If you're following all my crazy fun videos, I share a lot of my mythology and snippets of my work on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I have a TikTok shop set up. I also have books set up on willisauthor.com. Those are both great ways to get some signed copies from me. You can also order from my publisher, fourhorsemenpublications.com, or anywhere where books are sold. You should be able to get me at your local Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and most small shops that also use the iPage systems. So
cool. Awesome. Is your TikTok just Valerie Willis, or is it?
It's Willis Author. At Willis Author, you're going to end up getting me. And if you go to my website, I've got links to all that stuff, so it's a little easier to find.
Okay. Cool. Valerie, we will see you soon, I hope, because I want to continue this conversation. I love it. So
it's absolutely
normal things that go bump in the night. Well, I guess they're still going bump in the night. But
yes.
In the daytime.
We will see you soon. Thank you again. I do appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Bye. Have a good night.
All right, that was great. Let me hit a button here, and we will be right back. If I can figure out what button to push.
Hi, Rich Fields here, and come on down. It's time for the Sportcat Show.
And we are back. That was great.
Yes.
I enjoyed that. Well, Shy, you've got a special for us.
Yes. Good friend of mine and Travis's. He just did his Kickstarter launch today for his comic Alma the Champion. So it is writer John Holland from.
And you know what? I see he's backstage, so let's just bring him out. John, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, we can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know. The camera should be working. I thought it was on.
Oh no!
Well, you're just so handsome. You're hiding from us.
Yeah, I'll be the other way.
Well, no, I'm the one that breaks the camera. So, John, Shia was telling us about your book you just released. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's basically the tagline for it is "What if Buffy was a 72-year-old grandmother?"
Oh,
I love it.
I've taken the concept of where usually the hero or the champion or whatever is always either the young girl like Buffy or a young the young strong guy, and kind of flipped it on its head, and the champion now is Alma, who is a 72-year-old grandmother.
Granny
That's
kicking
great.
some butt.
cool.
I don't know if you caught any of our previous guests, but her genre was a little bit different, but still incorporated that. What? Let's see. I saw you have Diebold Comics. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my company that I use, my brand that I use to self-publish my comics. I've got probably about 30 comics I've self-published over the years.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's I've been doing this for quite a while. I've got stuff, science fiction, horror, just regular stuff, all sorts of stuff. I try to write in every type of genre that I can get into.
Do you do the artwork as well?
Oh no, I can't draw to save my life. That's why I need people like Travis. I always tell people I can't draw a straight line with a ruler, so I definitely need somebody to do the artwork for it because I'm terrible as far as that goes.
Well, no, he's got the talent of coming up with the story, so yeah. It's got to be hard though to get what you're visualizing and your conception of something to an artist and get them to do it. How do you do that? It's always fascinating.
Patience.
Yeah. It's like I'll write the description out on the page, what's supposed to be happening in each panel, and then the artist takes that, and if they have any questions, or they may have different ideas on what to do instead of what I did. So it's kind of a give and take in a sense too. I don't like to send something to somebody and say, this is exactly what you have to draw, because the artist has their own ideas, and the artist, a lot of times they're more visual than I am. So they, when I plan it out or plot it out on the page, they may look at it and say, well, what if we did it this way? Or, take this panel and break it into 2 panels or something like that. And, it works out better. Plus it's, I don't want to be the guy sitting there telling somebody exactly what to do, because one, like I said, they have their own ideas, and they're not going to like drawing something that, they have no input in either. And I think as a team, it just comes out better.
Yeah. That's true.
Finding, that good balance anymore is so hard.
Yeah. Well, Shay knows Travis and I can be on the phone for like hours.
I sometimes think he talks to Travis more than I do.
One of us will call the other and say, "Oh, I just need to tell you something real quick." And 3 hours later, it's like, "Okay, I think our real quick is over."
It's that there is no lie. That.
Well, I mean, it's a two-way street here, because Cheyenne is my paranormal assistant, and I sometimes think I talk to her more than I talk to my wife. So,
and anymore, like I've said it before, but John can certainly attest. It's very hard to find those good people that you can work with like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Because like part of what you were saying, John, like we as writers, we're not comic artists regardless of, what genre we're in. And a lot of the times we might write things that don't necessarily make sense in the form of how they can draw it. So to find somebody who, has that same, you're thinking very much on the same level, is very hard to find.
Yeah, you want to find somebody that you can trust, and that, like you said, that you can communicate with, and talk back and forth. And if one person says something, the other one's not going to get upset that you took my idea and then changed it a little bit or whatever. You
Yeah.
know, it's got to be that, you know, that trust between both parties. Because, you know, I've worked with artists before that it's not always works out like that, you know. So,
well, I mean, that's your baby, so to speak. I mean, you created it, you brought it to life, you breathed your story into it, so that's your baby. So yeah, it is hard to. It's probably also going to be hard to let go.
Yeah, and some stories, and some stories more than others. You know, Alma, the one I'm kickstarting right now, is even more so because Alma was my mom's name.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of, you know, Buffy is a lot in the book, but a lot of the book is my mom too, because, you know, and my mom just passed away like a little over a year ago, so it's all, you know, kind of hits really close to home right now. So, you know, this one is a lot more, you know, personal to me than a lot of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it has to be. Matt said the first editor he ever worked with messaged him for 2 hours before they met in person. So I said that they found out they were being arrested and taken to prison. Whoa!
That's crazy.
Holy cow.
Wow. That is crazy.
I don't think he was his editor for very long.
No.
A minute. That's where that term comes from.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what initially inspired you to getting into writing comics, John?
I've always read comics. Well, I've always read everything, you know, from when I was as young as I can imagine. And I've always loved comics, and I've always wanted to write. And, you know, I would try to write short stories and things like that. And I've tried to write comics at the same time. And it just seems like I've had more luck writing comics than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I can very much understand that. When you're a very visual person, you know, you want to you want your work to show the way that you see it in your head.
Yeah, and I've been reading since like I honestly can't remember a time when I wasn't reading. You know, when I was a little kid, my parents had me in a, you know, like a Dr. Zeus book club. So, you know, I've been reading since I was, you know, like I said, I don't remember when I started, but, you know, I know I wasn't reading at 1 or 2, but I've been reading most of my life. You know, my dad was a big reader, you know, and he was always reading. So, you know, books and you know, my parents they never cared what I was reading. They never, you know, looked at, oh, you know, that you're not old enough for that book, or, you know, that book's beyond you, you know. They just, as long as I was reading, they were happy.
As long as you were reading and staying out of trouble.
Yeah. My parents were the same way. They never cared.
Yeah, when I remember when I was probably like maybe 10 or 11, you know, some older kids, you know, were seeing some of the stuff I was reading, and they were like, you know, does your parents know you're reading that? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And what inspired starting Diebold?
I just needed to. For a while, I was just writing. You know, the books that I was publishing, self-publishing, didn't have a name. You know, didn't have a brand to it. You know, it was, and I thought I needed a brand, something where I could put everything under one name, and it just made it a little more convenient, and it just made it easier for people to know, okay, that's where, you know, your books are. Because before it was like there was no label, no brand on the comics. It was just the title of the comics and, you know, my name. And I just, Diebold kind of brands it. You know, I like the name. You know, it's a pretty, and it just seems like more people recognize that than they did if I was just writing it as, you know, with under my name.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Well, that makes sense. It gives it not only a title, it gives it a brand. And so you can off Sue from that. So yeah, because I saw you had many comic books in there. So like you said, you wrote what, 30?
There's about 30. Some of them are I've actually reprinted a few books that are in like public domain. Probably about maybe 3 or 4 of those, but most of them are books that I've wrote. I have a free comic that I give away at conventions. That's a short story in comic form based on Marie Laveau.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm from right outside New Orleans, so
How are you?
yeah. I've written a book, like a comic, A Brief History of Voodoo.
Ooh.
Yeah, so New Orleans is all that. I fits into a lot of what I write. So I like the city. I like the history and things like that about it.
That's good.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like Valerie was saying, it sounds like you do the research too on it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I try, to kind of keep, sometimes you can get too tripped up with the research, I mean,
Yeah.
especially if it's a fictional story,
Yeah.
I'll get to the point it'll be like, well, that's not exactly where that is in the city, or that's not exactly how things, and then I got to realize, well, it's not a real story anyway, so I can take liberties.
Yeah. You got to make some stuff up.
Yeah, exactly.
You can be a little loosey goosey with things.
Yeah, or otherwise, sometimes I just get trapped in the the writing and realize it's not going where I want it to go. Well, I need to make it go that way then.
Yep.
It's very easy to get hung up on those little details.
yeah, I was going to ask, when you start it, do you have a finishing point? Because some people will start something and it just kind of wanders, and others it seems like they got a finishing point, but they don't know how to get there.
Sometimes I'm not one that I don't sit down and write like a whole outline or anything. I usually do have kind of a finishing point. I'll have the beginning and a kind of the end, and then I just kind of write to get to that point. And then the ending's not always exactly where I expected it to end. I'm actually almost done. I'm working on a short story that's not comic related that I'm hoping to like a little horror story. And I thought I had the ending when I was writing, and I'm almost done with within probably about 5 pages of it, and I realized that ending isn't exactly where I wanted to end, so I kind of switched the ending up a little bit. But I don't like to outline, get it too structured, because when I start writing it, it's a lot of times the story will kind of tell me where to go.
Yeah.
You don't want to be too rigid.
Yeah, because I'll be writing and I'll be like, well, wait a minute, this should go maybe turn right instead of left, and it opens up other paths that I wasn't imagining. So, but I usually try to have an ending kind of in place, so I kind of know where at least I'm heading for.
Yeah.
I've written comics, like I was doing one. I've got a title called Robot Sex that was supposed to be a one shot.
Which Glenn would like a copy of.
Yeah. Really?
It's not. I do have to tell you up front, though, it's not X-rated. It's not even really R-rated. It's just a science fiction. The title is more to catch people's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
But it was going to be a one shot, and when I was writing it, it was growing so much. I said, well, I need to do this for 2 issues. And then when I started the second issue, it got to the point where I was like, oh, this needs to be a continuing series. I can just keep writing this for a while. The characters just kind of kept growing on me, and I kept seeing where other places it could go. So, which is kind of nice, when that happens. But then sometimes it's like, I really wanted to do some comics that are just one and done issues, instead of having a lot of, especially in my case, it takes a while to put out a comic because I've got to fund it and, get the artist. So if I've got something going on for more than one issue, it's not like the second issue comes out within a month or 2. Sometimes it may take a year to come out.
Oh yeah. When you take, not when you take that long, but when it takes that long, a year to come out, are they longer than usual, or is it just like a short comic?
The minimum is 24 pages that I'll write. And then, as I write it, I've had stories where, like, I had a book that was The Getaway Driver that was going to be a 24-page one-shot. Well, it ended up being 36 pages because, I kept writing it, and I was like, well, I still want to make it a one-shot. And if I did any more than 36 pages, I probably would have broken it into 2 issues. But I got it in 36 pages, so it's a nice, size book. But usually about 24 pages is where I try to, kind of end it at. That's, it kind of sucks because I know in between, having to wait a long time if somebody wants to read the next issue is, not the best situation, but sometimes it's the best I can do.
Well, too. I mean, if they're a fan, they anticipate it. That's not bad.
They're gonna be waiting on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially publishers, I think, in my situation where, we just kind of use Kickstarter or think self-publish. Yeah. There's a lot of books like that because, it was a little easier when I had a full-time job because
right.
I could pay for stuff myself. I had enough, I made enough, and I didn't have a lot of expenses. I live by myself. I don't spend a lot of money. So most of my money, I do spend a lot of money, but it was all going into making comic books.
Yeah.
And, the last year I was retired, and I can tell you on Social Security, you don't make that much money to have a lot of money left over.
That is true.
Yeah, it sounds like podcasting. You just keep spending money, throwing good money after this.
Oh yeah.
It's like a passion.
Yeah, I can tell you, I've never made. I am not in the black as far as comic publishing goes.
No, same with
you will be someday.
But, well, we all have a talent. I think mine's just running my mouth. So
yeah.
And I enjoy meeting everybody that has the different stories and talents. Especially, I'm fascinated with the comic book artist because, like I said, to me, you not only have to tell the story, you have to write the picture of the story. Mm-hmm. So that seems to me it makes it harder. When I first got into this, I was asking artists or authors and artists, and they're like, no, you got it backwards. It's even harder because they have to describe it, not only tell the tale. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, and we've got to be careful. It's easy for me to write a panel and say 1,000 people attack the hero, and then the artist is going to look at that and say, I can't fit 1,000 people in a comic panel. You have to kind of think of what actually can be done too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Minions. A bunch of minions attack.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a lot of the same thing like what Travis did when you guys were putting together Death Rain? We had Steve as a character from many years ago that he put into this. So do you work kind of similarly with your writing, that you have stuff and characters and parts that you've developed years ago that you've kind of just put on the shelf?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sometimes our ideas or characters or just little things will pop up later, and I'll realize, oh, now I know what to do with them. Sometimes when it first comes up, I can try to do something with it, and it's like trying to force it, and if I've got to force it, it's not going to work. So I'll put it to the side, and then later it might I could be working on something else, and I'll be like, oh, wait a minute, this idea may work with that, and before I know it, it works. So yeah, I never throw away an idea or a character. I may never use some of them, but they're all there still.
Yeah.
They're all I've got notebooks that I just throw to got in a big off to the side that sometimes I can be going through them and trying to figure out what I was remembered from 10 years ago. Like, oh wait a minute, I need to find this guy, this character.
That was the one question. Do you have that storage, or do you have a notebook of different people? Bob, he was the hotel greeter. Tom, he was the taxi cab driver. Is that the way you do it? Have a little library of characters?
I wish I was that organized. I'm even new stuff I write. I'll pick up I have a lot of just blank notepads, and I'll pick up a notepad and start writing on it, and then I may lay it down, and then I'll come up with another idea, and I'll start writing on another notepad, and then when I want to go back to the other one, I'll be like, "Where's the?" I'll have the same story in 4 or 5 notepads because that's what I picked up, and then I've got to go back and find them all to try to type it all up and get it all together. I'm the most unorganized person in the world. I need to be better organized.
The issues of being a writer. You get an idea anywhere, you gotta write it down, and then you'll have lost it for a year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, after you've come up with the story and you've written the story, do you send it off to somewhere to bounce it off of people? Is there a group that you use to see, is this readable? Is this palatable? Or is it
Like a test group or something?
Yeah, like a test group, or you are the test group.
I'm pretty much the test group. I probably should. It'd probably be, but I'm more the test group myself. The next person that's going to read it and give me their opinion would be the artist.
Yeah.
Like I can send it to the artist, and they can, if they think something's really weird or doesn't make sense, they can throw it back at me, and and then that's where that give and take comes. And if it's something I really would feel really strong about, I may say, no, this is the way I really want it for this reason, so, but it's usually the artist is more the person that's kind of going to be that person's going to read it and decide, oh, this is completely crazy. I don't want to have anything to do with this. So let's go from this, because Travis and I do that, we'll come up with an idea. One of us will throw an idea to other, and, and then it's back and forth, and, we end up so much time just talking about things.
It'll be sitting in the kitchen. Hold on, I got an idea. I got to go call John.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had so many different ideas, back and forth, and it's just, and even that, like when we did Death Rain, it's going back and forth, it's like, oh, I'll do this, and, oh no, what about this? And it's like I said, it's just a back and forth, and I like that, that works really good, I think.
It does if you have a good person you're working with, because you hone it down to make it sharper and better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then some artists I work with, like the artist for Alma, Hernan, basically I sent him the script and he just drew it exactly like I sent it. A part of it is he lives in Brazil and his English isn't perfect. So, he's pretty much just following the script, because I don't think he, a lot of give and take as far as that goes. He would lose it as far, because he has to have somebody translate the script for him into Spanish. He has some English, but it's not real great. His English is still better than my Spanish, so I'm, he's still a step ahead of me.
Yeah, the cover that he did for Alma was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to look at some of the covers a few minutes before you came on, and this is some pretty good stuff. I like it. What was the getaway driver story about?
Basically, it was a crime story about a getaway driver. Just like a couple weeks in her life. It was a woman getaway driver, and just kind of, showed, kind of basically where she kind of retires because she gets in a situation that she almost gets killed, and then she kind of walks away from everything.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah. That idea actually came from, I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but years ago there was that movie that came out about a getaway driver.
That's the one I was thinking. Was that?
I've never seen the movie, but I just, it was all over the place at one time. It was, and it was, I don't know if it was called The Getaway Driver or something. It was in the title, and it just kind of, started thinking about it, and I just wrote my own version.
That's what I was thinking.
I keep thinking of the insurance company where the guy's the driver and they in the car.
Oh yeah.
That's what when you said that was the first thing that come to my mind. It sounds like yours is more like a combination of the mule from the Clint Eastwood story and the I know the movie you're talking about, but I can't remember the name of it myself.
Is it Drive?
No, Edgar Wright directed it. I remember he was a director, but
you could probably write a story about what recently happened in Atlanta. There was a
Baby Driver.
Baby Driver, that was it. Yeah. I never seen it, so I don't know. I just kind of seen it like on the news. I mean, on all the talk shows and the online and stuff, and it just kind of sparked the idea for me.
Yeah, so you could probably write about this incident that just happened in Atlanta. There was a mass shooting in a mall, and the police get there, everything.
Yeah.
The media interviews this guy, and then he leaves, jumps on a bus, pulls a machete out, and holds the bus driver. Tells him if he doesn't drive, to get, to go, he's taking the whole bus hostage. and it was like 2 hours of drama on Atlanta TV live. So,
oh wow,
Crazy.
yeah, that nuts.
well,
But yeah,
I didn't hear anything about that.
beforehand on the news. He was that guy. You know, the news always finds that one guy. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One guy.
It's like that documentary about the hitchhiker guy. Like they were interviewing him, and it turns out he was the one that killed the people that
Yes.
the news
Yes.
was there for.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Well, like Valerie was just telling us before, you know, real life is sometimes better than fiction.
Yeah.
Fact is sometimes stranger than fiction. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I love some of your titles. I love some of the. I've been flipping through the art while we go back and forth here. Another one that caught my attention was the lizards.
Lizards is an old title. That I've been writing that since the late 80s or the 90s.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was originally published through a real publisher, Fantagraphics, and it was in short stories. They had a title that was called Critters, and it was all like short stories of like basically using animals as the characters, and it was in that, and then it was in Caliber Comics, and then probably a break of 10 years. And when I started self-publishing myself, I decided to bring it back. So it's up to 6 issues right now. And the plan is to keep it going, but I kind of pushed that to the side to do some of this other stuff right now. But I'm hoping to get back to it and do another issue, keep it going. But yeah, that's that. I'm using different artists because the original artist on that, Ron Wilbur, died sometime in the last 10 years. He was an artist that I never met, never talked to him on the phone. All our correspondence was through the mail. This was like regular mail back before. This was before computers, because when I first started, it was before email and the internet. Back in the 80s. And yeah, no. And all we did was write back and forth. And then when we kind of stopped working on the book, we kind of kept writing for a little bit, and then we just I never heard from him again. And then about 10 years later, at some convention, some guy came up and was telling me, "Oh yeah, I know Ron." Was talking about it and said, "Yeah, he died a few years ago," and that was the only way I knew that he had passed away. So I've started using I was using a few different artists for it, and I've been using kind of the same artist for the last story. So it's one of those books that I think I can use different artists. Like every cover on that book has been a different artist so far.
That's kind of cool, though.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of using different artists on it.
Yeah.
But to keep something like that's older, just keep it going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm flipping through some of these, and the art is incredible. It looks great.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate that I've worked with some really good artists.
Well, you've given them something to work with too, so that makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you were talking about, you decided to break out and do the Diebold publisher comics yourself, I think that was probably very brave, because now you're the guy. I mean, it all starts and stops with things with you,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the only thing before I did Diebold, I was just using basically on the back of all my comics I had printed, I would have my name on it. And the one good thing about that was there's a one of those B movies. What was the name of it? Santa Jaws. It was a shark movie.
Santa Jaws.
Yeah.
Santa Jaws. They actually filmed in New Orleans. And they filmed at a lot of it takes place in a comic shop, because the main character was a comic book fan. So they filmed in the local comic shop that I shopped at, and they couldn't use the Marvel or DC comics because they didn't want to get the permission. So in the background of when they were in the store, you'd see all my comics behind there. And the kid was actually reading them.
Wow.
And so one of the scenes in the comic, the kid is sitting in the bed reading the comic. He's got it in his hands, and you can see my name on the back page of it really good.
Oh, that's
That was
awesome.
kind of cool, you know.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's
It's a
very
little,
cool.
a little free advertising there.
Yeah.
You probably got some fans from that.
Yeah.
Well, so
But yeah, but I still think going through it with Diebold, you know, branding it like that was still a better move than trying to just, you know, it kind of gives a place to keep all my comics.
And
Yeah.
it's recognizable too. So
Yeah.
And have you thought about taking on other authors and comic book artists under your Diebold?
I've thought of it, but you know, I can barely afford to pay, you know, to publish my own stuff right now. So, you know, it'd be kind of hard to, you know, do anything else, you know, because, you know, if a writer brings his project on, he's going to, you know, want to probably get paid for it, which
Right.
I don't blame him. So, you know,
obviously we can speak from experience. It's not it's not easy to take your own stuff out there and you know, expect people to well like he was saying, you know, people want to be paid up front, and
Right.
it's hard to take that jump sometimes to, you know, say they wanted to put something through Diebold so that it had a, you know, a company name on it. For a lot of people, it's hard to take that jump to even just have it somewhere.
Right.
Absolutely.
yeah. And like I said, I have published some stuff that's been that's in the public domain. I republished a couple old comic books, and I actually republished the first Winnie the Pooh book. I put that out in paperback because that went into public domain, I think, the year before last. So so I thought some of those would be kind of cool to have, you know, have it out, and it would, you know, attract some people to the, you know, to the table when I'm at conventions and stuff. So.
You're getting ready to go to San Diego, aren't you?
Hopefully. I'm hoping, you know, until I'm actually on the airplane going, I'm not going to, you know, because, well, you know, some of the situation with my sister and everything. So hopefully everything will work out, and I'll be able I bought the plane tickets, you know, and, you know, I've got my pass and everything. So, and I'm hoping to get out that way. I haven't been there like since 2002, so
wow,
it's been a long time.
Yeah, that's the largest one in the country, isn't it? Convention.
Yeah, it's crazy. When I went, the last time I went, like in 2002, it was big and crazy. But since then, it's gotten even bigger and crazier. I mean, from what I've been told and what I've seen, it's just insane.
Well, we just had Shia. Who was it? We just had on Demi. I can't remember the comic book company. They get a booth and table there, and so Albatross.
Oh shoot!
I can't. I talked to so many people.
Yeah, that's part of my thing. You'll have to give me a minute. I'll find it.
No, that's good. So a lot of people, John, and I still haven't conceptualized it yet. What is the process that you start? You come up with the idea, you write the story, you get with the author. Then how do you get it actually out to the public? Besides for, I mean, Amazon or something.
Mainly it's through conventions. You know, I do a lot of conventions. I try to post. You know, I've got a website. You know, where you can order it online. You know, social media. You know, Facebook, Twitter. You know, just, you know, put it out, you know, doing podcasts, just, you know, getting the word out as much as possible. Probably the way I sell most of them, though, is conventions. You know, I try to do a lot of conventions. And, you know, that's, you know, especially locally, I do a lot of conventions. The only problem with doing the local conventions is some of them, I do so many of them that I don't get enough stuff out in between conventions. So I've kind of cut back on some of the local conventions, and I've been doing more like, you know, I've been traveling to, like, I was at a big one, Heroes Con in North Carolina. I've been doing them in Tennessee and Florida and Texas, and I'm just trying to branch out a little further too now, and, you know, get into places where people haven't seen me. But, you know, when I'm doing the ones locally, people come up and look at my table and they're like, "Oh, what do you have out new?" And I'm like, "Nothing since 2 months ago." So it's hard. There's a lot of conventions around this way. A lot of small ones, and I used to do every one. I'd be like, "Oh, if it's local, I'm going to do them." But now I'm kind of cutting back on them and trying to do more. Like I said, get a little further out. Usually 6 to 8 hours isn't too bad a drive. Now the one in North Carolina was like, I think, a 14-hour drive, so that one was a little rough, but it was a good convention. It was like just a pure comic book convention. There was no movie stars or TV stars or wrestlers or anybody. It was all just comic book people.
That makes it more fun, I think. Add the wrestler in there. That might be fun. So
yeah. Well, nowadays, comic book convention's really not a comic book, and because like even San Diego, it's they've got movie people, TV people, everybody.
They've turned more into like toy conventions.
Yeah.
Collectible conventions.
They have live shows from there just about the convention. Which I think is great for people like me that probably never get to go, but it's massive. It's huge. So.
Oh yeah. Well, San Diego always had people more than just comic book people, because when I first started going, it was in the 90s, and they had like I remember seeing George Lucas at one of the shows. Who directed Quentin Tarantino? Lou Ferrigno, so it's always been more of a media type convention. Comic books was always the bigger part of it, but they've always been, more than just a comic book convention.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of their hype. That's their hype, man, so to speak. That would be pretty cool. I'd like to meet Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah, he still does, and he still just travels. A lot of these actors, I think, that don't get as much work as they used to, travel, do these comic book conventions, or not just comic book conventions, and they make a pretty good living off of it. After Buffy the Vampire Slayer went off the air, a lot of those actors that played vampires and some of the other characters on it, I see them at conventions all over the place.
So that comic company was Albatross Funny Books.
I was close.
No.
Her husband is the artist Eric Powell, who does The Goon.
Oh yeah, I know who Eric Powell is. Yeah, I thought The Goon has been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his wife is a roller girl.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, she's my friend. She's a roller girl. She was in Atlanta. Now they're out in Portland.
Yes.
So now she's in charge of all the roller girls, so to speak. They've got their own little. I don't want to call it a con, but I mean, there's a competition from worldwide with roller girls. It's got to be something there. So.
Yeah, I said she might as well be like the director of the roller girl Olympics.
Pretty much. All while I'm helping manage Eric's stuff, so and get going to San Diego.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting learning that from her with the being grandfathered in system. So the longer you've been going, the better table setup you get, better space you get. And they've been going for 15 years, I think was something she said.
She said that 15, yeah.
Oh yeah, now to get a table at San Diego is, unless somebody drops out, because nobody wants to drop out. I've got a friend that's been going for probably 30 years, to the convention. And it's just, and I don't know if they still do it, but originally, and that's like a lot of cons back in the day, they used to not charge for an artist table. The artists actually got tables for free because they were the draw that were bringing the people into the conventions. But nowadays the draw is Chris Evans and and the actors and the movie stars. So the comic book guys, aren't as important anymore.
Yeah.
So they'll jack up. There's some of the conventions, some of the bigger conventions right now are charging almost $600 for a table.
What?
Cow.
Nuts.
Yeah. And that's I don't know. I mean, unless you're a really big name, there's no way I could make a profit off of that, especially if you have to travel and rent a hotel room and, and all of that. You're spending $1,000 before you even sell your first book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I sell my comics for $5 a copy. That's a lot of comics I have to sell.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And Lord only knows that the prices of stuff that they're charging out there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because they were talking about that. That was a big thing. The New York convention, I think their tables are $550.
It's like it's double that in San Diego.
Yeah,
well, New York is so expensive too. You figure a hotel in New York City.
Oh yeah.
New York City, you're spending a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous.
It's true.
Plus you got the table, the expenses to get there, the food, travel, because there's no way you're gonna want to bring your own vehicle up there. So taxis, Ubers, Lyft.
Yeah, I tried doing it in the patch and challenge coin world, and I learned real quick after a couple shows, it's not for me. There's too rich to travel and do all those things. So spend your whole life and you wouldn't make any money.
Well, those shows are very similar to the comic conventions.
Yeah, those are more niche, but John, do you? I know today was your kickoff day, but I've got to ask: do you have any other stories lined up, or what else is coming up?
Well, we're working on the book with Travis. We had the Kickstarter for that a couple months ago, and we we made our goal. We had did really pretty well on it. So Travis and I are working on that right now.
And I'll tell you, that is. I feel like Death Rain was a good example of not going how you expect things to go.
Oh yes.
how your initial story setup goes to what it ended up being.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about the whole story. Okay, I thought you were talking about the process. I got you.
Well, kind of both, to be honest.
It was a process, but we worked on a lot of catering to our people who wanted to be a part of it. So that took a big...
trunk?
That took it in a big different direction.
Oh.
I mean, not completely different, but it added a lot in there. I'll just say it added a lot that was not expected.
Money-wise or?
Content-wise?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, money-wise too, they were, they basically put us over the goal. They were a big part of it.
Gotcha.
Because we were offering like drawn-in tiers where we'll draw the characters in. We'll write, if you back that tier, we'll write you into the comic book.
Oh, okay.
So, we learned a lot on that whole Kickstarter. From the actually doing that Kickstarter to everything was
from launch date to end date was a complete.
Yeah. That could be a whole podcast, probably 2 or 3 hours long.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, I didn't realize with the Kickstarter you were adding a character in at a certain level. I didn't realize that.
Did it work out well?
Yeah.
It's working. Like I said, they were a big help actually. So it was it's just an experience getting it all right, because they kind of keep going back and forth, like, what if we can do this? What if we do this?
Okay.
Well, and the best part of that is they all got to talk to John.
Okay.
I've got like probably, I don't know if it may be like 200 emails back and forth,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
No, you're going to have to you're going to have to be, this is what it is. You can't,
Yeah, that's what Travis
yeah,
keeps telling me. Just tell them this is what you're going to do.
yeah, this
And
is
I,
what
you
you're
know,
going to
they'll come
have.
up with
Yeah,
they'll come up with an idea, and I'll tell them, "Oh, we'll do that. That's fine." But then they'll be like, "Well, what if we did?" And I told them,
no, no.
One if.
You have to learn no.
you know, so we can't just have you to be.
You can only have your fluffy high heels be blown off in so many different ways.
Yes. You have to give him like 2 or 3 choices like a child.
Yeah,
That was going to be my next question. Did you get him to say, okay, you're either John the garbage man or Bob the taxi driver, or did you come in and say, no, I'm Julio and I run the daycare? How does that work?
well, we kind of took what they wanted to be, and we're working it into the book as much as possible.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I
they
mean,
paid a lot of money for the option to do this, so you know, I don't want to just like, oh no, you know.
well,
So we're working it. I think they're going to be happy with it because you know they've told me that a lot they've done this for a couple comics. You know, they like getting into the comics, and they told me basically that they haven't been really happy with any of the books that they've been in. That, you know,
I got you.
You know, the creators, I think, promise them that they'll do this for them, and then they end up just sticking them in however they want.
Oh, okay.
You know, we want to. I mean, the whole point of it was to kind of, you know, create something for them in the book. You know, I mean, it's got to fit into, you know, the storyline to the, you know, where we can't just say, okay, you're going to be something that we
Yeah.
just can't fit in, but you know, it's pretty open where we can fit it, you know, a lot of things into it. So, you know, we want to kind of get it as close to what they want as possible.
That's a good thing too about the story though, is that there is room for that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
so
I guess
that-
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, I was just going to ask what stage you were at in that project.
We still got a little bit to go. We still got a little bit to go on it. So we're probably like just in the first quarter of it, you know, getting it done. You know, the script is about half, maybe a little over half written. You know, Travis is drawing it, so you know, it's on its way, but it's taking a little bit of time.
Yeah.
It's a labor of love.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's going to be 48 pages too. So that's, you know, that's good because, you know, on a Kickstarter, you have to charge more than like a comic that you're going to go pick up at the comic book shop because,
Right.
you know, you've got all your expenses. If, you know, if we charge $5 for the comic, you know, through a Kickstarter, you know, we never would make unless our goal was $500, we'd never make our goal. So,
Yeah.
you know, so you want to try to make the comic as, you know, maybe a little bigger, as much into it as you can, because you know you have to charge anywhere from $10 to $20 for a single issue. You know,
Yeah.
and
didn't we start off with less pages too?
Yeah, well, originally it was going to be
to start?
the first story, the Death Rain story, was going to be 24, and then we're going to do backups. But pretty much the way I've written it's all going to be Death Rain right now, I think. So it's all be, which I think will work out better. You know, it'll all be 48 pages. But so I you know, so almost 48 pages, but you know, almost already 100% done. You know, so once the Kickstarter is over, I'll be able to, you know, just basically print it and you know, print the different covers and send it out. So you know, it's that's the one. It helps if the book is done. But then again, sometimes it's harder to get to draw 48 pages and not have any, you know, get any of that money or anything, or, you know, before you're even sure that it's going to fund. Exactly.
Right.
You know,
And then
that's a lot of work, you know.
Then if you have to write your other characters in, you've got to rearrange everything.
Yeah. So, because Alma, I actually printed some copies of Alma before this. I did it as a 24-page comic last year, and I sold them at conventions. And
Yeah.
when I went to Kickstarter, I added like another 8 pages of comic to it, but I've got a letter page in there, and I also have like 4 pages of recipes for my mom in there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of a the book really, I think, turned out really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
A really cool idea.
Yeah, paid some homage there. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
I like that.
Yeah, you don't see too many comics with recipes in them, so
No.
I think
I'd be more likely to buy comics if there were.
Yeah.
Me too. I really would.
Well, let me tell you, I wrote a short story. There's a book, and Travis is actually going to do the art for it. It's an 8-page short, or 6 pages. The book is going to be called, what's the book called? Pots and Panels. It's going to come out in October, and all the stories are dealing with food. Or, food has to be part of the story, something like, of meals or things like that. And every story is going to have, the writers or the artists have to put a recipe in there.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
there's your recipe book.
All right.
There you go. Yeah, I like that.
I'll hit you up on that.
Yeah.
You know where to find me.
Yeah.
Cool. And that was going to be my next question: is where can they find you? Obviously, it's it's globalcomics.com. Is that right?
Yeah, Ko-fi.com/DieboldComics.
Okay. All right. I'll have to get that in.
Ko-fi. Yeah, that was it's that Buy Me a Coffee site.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But they've actually, you can actually make a really pretty cool website on there and do a lot of stuff on there. And, and you can get funded on there. You can put a shop in there. So I've kind of made that because I went through so many different websites and sites that I've created. I was doing Patreon. I was doing some of these other sites, Substack, and I was trying to do all those, and it just gets confusing. Ko-fi was a lot easier to use, and an easy way for me to get money off of it too.
And it's been working out well for you.
Yeah. I think, for a little while there, I kind of, with everything that had happened the last few months, I really hadn't been on the site for a lot, but I'm getting back into it. So, I think it's going to be the way to go. I just got to stick to one site because I'd be in one place, and then I was like, I don't like this. And then I moved somewhere else. And it's like, I'm kind of like skipping ahead of anybody that wants to keep up with me. They don't know where I am because I change it before long.
Gotcha.
Duly noted.
Before we let you get out of here, I don't know if you caught it with Valerie, but we always ask anybody that comes on, because we want to try and keep some of this paranormal. Have you ever had any paranormal experiences, run into a ghost, a Bigfoot, or anything?
No, I can't say I have.
So your creativity comes from just your imagination then?
Yeah. I put a lot of paranormal in my stories, Like I said, I did a book on voodoo. I've, Marie Laveau is like this, it's like a passion for me. I'm just so, eventually I'm going to write a longer story with her. It's just, I'm really, just intrigued by that character.
I agree with that. Voodoo is like that equal parts scary and interesting.
Yeah. And living here, all that's part of New Orleans. So that's kind of I don't know if I'm interested in it because of New Orleans or where the connection comes from. But
shoot, John, you live down there with all of it. Go find a ghost.
Yeah.
Go find the Louisiana Bigfoot.
From everything we heard on our shows, the French Quarter is loaded, and you can find vampires even if you look in the right places. So
yeah.
And if you find any, I am requiring you to report back.
I definitely will.
We have still not gotten a vampire on our show, and I've been trying really hard. So not it wasn't yours, Dina. So,
I don't care.
Vampire, I have not. He keeps dodging me. I think he's in another dimension right now. Well, John, I'm glad you came in. I know it was last minute, so we caught you off guard, and I don't want to keep you all night.
Nope, I appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
It was fun. Thank you.
And
John.
keep in touch with Shay there, and we'll bring you back when you got some other projects coming up. So
all right, definitely.
He won't be going anywhere.
No.
All right, John. Well, I'm gonna let you get out of here since I know, like I said, you're filling in for us, and I appreciate that. But we'll keep in touch, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thanks, John. All right,
Bye.
That was a great show, ladies. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, we pulled it off. I don't know, duct taping Band-Aids for my setup here. So
It worked.
It did.
yeah. I'm gonna play this back to see how I sound. I must say that I'm spoiled from the home studio with the desktop and the Shure microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably won't be happy with it.
You
but,
won't.
No.
You will not.
But it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I know. I'm a perfectionist, and it's just
Well, thanks, Matt.
So, yeah, thank you, Matt. Please like, follow, share, subscribe. Catch us here every Wednesday night at 9 doing Para OR Normal Things. Friday night we have a public safety show at 9 p.m. And then Saturdays, well, as I say on my radio show, I don't even know how the hell to describe that show. This weekend we've got a comedian that's a ukulele player that's going to entertain us for 2 hours. I have no idea where that's going to go. I have no idea. So,
you know, I feel bad. I forgot about that. And I got all that stuff ready, so I guess we will use everything I got ready tonight for next week.
Well, you're prepared. There you go. I'll probably need this.
All right,
you never know. You never know if the guests may not show up, or we might need it if they have to go or something. You never know.
Well, if it's good, then we're good for next week. So
that's right.
Yeah, so it all works out. But and then normally I'm doing a show 3 days a week on the Thin Line Rock Station, Wednesdays and Thursdays from noon till 2.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah, Tuesdays. Okay, yeah, those days. I got Google Calendar. Without Google Calendar, I would be lost. I'm a little bit spacey today, so it's been a long day. And then Fridays I do Friday night flashback with like Disco Duck. Flashback. So yeah, we get some requests in there. I even got Shay's request in there. So
yes.
Dina, you got to call in and do a request for me. So
Shay gave you my request.
I did.
But see, I need you saying it. It sounds better playing for me rather her go, oh yeah, by the way, play this. Dina wants this. It's just right on the radio. So
whatever.
I need you, your expertise. So
of course.
Shay, who we have next week? I know we got the ukulele player on the Saturday show. I don't remember on the Friday show, and I have not looked enough to see next week.
Well, this Friday is Surviving Your Life for Grin and Guardian.
Okay. All right. Oh, yeah, he's the paramedic that tells his life story. Got it. I remember him, yeah.
Yeah, and then we've got, I don't know if it's Kristen or Christine Knowlton on Saturday.
Yes, the ukulele player. And
then next week we have comic writer Adam Wilson back here on Wednesday, and Siren.
That's right. The wrestler, or I like to say in the South, wrestler. So, Diane, any shows you got coming up? I know you're busy out there in the podcast world.
Nope, I'll be here.
Oh, okay. Dina, you got anything coming up besides for Misfits?
Negative.
All right. Well, yeah, I have no idea where the hell I'll be. I'll be on either WDJY, WRFN, some station in New Mexico that I can't talk about. You can find us all over. But yeah, I appreciate everybody. First time listeners, first time viewers. It was great. Thank you. We really appreciate it. Please do come back. Yeah. If nothing else, we have a lot of fun. So
that's right.
And now I've got some sexy Squatch books that I need to read.
Oh yeah.
And I must say, I'm sad to admit that I'm going to ask her for a copy of the Sasquatch one. So.
Oh boy.
I just need to know if Sexy Squatch is a gentle lover. If he's rocking the Bronco, maybe not. So
Probably not.
Who knows?
Just gonna flip it
You never
over.
know.
Well, you know.
We'll find out.
I want to thank the Parapost Network for allowing us on their air. And of course, Ross at YurgsRadio.com. We appreciate everything you do for us with the phone number and the station. Oh, and tonight we're also live on Rainbow Radio Radios. I forgot to make that, so welcome. Everybody have a great night. We will see you next week.
All right. Good luck.